What is up, you amazing founders? Sean Malone here alongside Mr. Simon Severino. We're here with the Elevate podcast to lift your business up to the next level, where we are here to talk about an awesome concept today. But first, Simon, how you doing?
Always great to see you. Hello, everyone. How are you?
Yeah. Great, man. Everything good? What's a big win for you before we kick this thing off here?
Big win. The book is now like 90% ready, and the beta readers are sending me messages. So Monica said today, Simon, this book needs to be in everybody's hands. How do we do that? She posted it in the Sprint Club. Adam said a very long message like, oh my God, there is no fluff in this book. I'm implementing this. I stopped reading it. I called my partner and I said, we need 1 day blocked in the calendar to implement this.
It's going to take more than one day because I was one of the lucky beta readers. And what I'll tell you is it's going to be a lot more than one day to implement that. I was really blown away with it, Simon. I'm just kind of I got like 3 chapters to go left, it was really fascinating to me because even it's relevant for the topic. The topic today is CEO Café: How to Deal with Pressure. And as I was reading through Simon's book, one of the things that like I took away through almost every single chapter, what it sounded like with the stories were amazing, by the way. So like real life stories, and I even found out like we had mutual clients that he put in the book. I was like, this is amazing. And all the stories that he was talking about was when the founder found themselves kind of falling into a trap door or getting stuck in some sort of a pothole. And then they would come to Simon or they would come to Jay Abraham and they would be like, hey, this is my life. And so it was almost like this, it wasn't, but it was weird how every single founder was like, I built this business to create my lifestyle, but now my business has robbed me of my lifestyle. And Simon's system gets you back to the lifestyle that you really want. And I was just really impressed with the tactical, the practical, the stories were amazing. I think the workbook strategy part of it is awesome. And yeah, it's going to be a hit, dude. So congrats. That's an awesome book.
You made it 20% better just with that workbook idea.
Well, good. I'm glad. I hope people use it because like that's a book that people should put in their world. It's one of those books where it's like there's so much in there, man. I don't even know how you pack so much in there. And it's almost the amount of like knowledge is just almost overwhelming. So you can't, that's why I said you couldn't do it in a day. Impossible. So, but I love it. I mean, I will keep, I took so many notes and I have so many nuggets from it. And I'm like, dang, I want to buy Simon's program now. So, so anyway, yeah, that was the book. Simon, congratulations. I can't wait for that thing to launch. I'm excited to finish the last 3 chapters, but yeah, great job, man. So, okay, so today we're talking about the CEO Cafe. This is a place where CEOs hang out. Simon has been a CEO for a long time. I have been CEOs through multiple programs and products and companies that I've owned and built. And so today we're going to talk about like the pressure when it comes to being a CEO, some of the mindset shift stuff that you have to have when you have like being a CEO. And so let's just kind of dive into it. The first one, I'll just ask you, Simon, like when you first became a CEO, what was the hardest mindset shift you had to make from going from like founder to truly being a CEO?
The hardest for me was that saying no to the wrong clients, saying no to the
Oh,
wrong
yeah.
projects. So when I became a CEO, I was responsible for the overall performance, all results, and for growth. So when you're responsible for growth, I felt I cannot say no to revenue. And that put me under pressure because almost every single year there was this point where I had to decide, hey, is this the direction or is that the direction? And if that is the direction, and sometimes I felt clearly that the direction is, let's say, north. And now there is this project opportunity and it's lucrative, but it's south. What do I do now? As an employee, it's easy. You say, no, it's not on our direction, right? As a CEO, well, but maybe we still do it.
Yeah.
And that was the toughest. And so I was always putting up a spreadsheet and say, can I, and I was calculating, can can we bear the costs of not doing this? And it became kind of an own spreadsheet that I pulled up, I think, 5 or 6 times in the last 12 years. Can I bear the costs of not doing this? So there would be a revenue amount there and opportunity costs, and how long will it take me to get, so let's say the opportunity is $200,000, but we want to say no to it. So how many months will it take me? The first one, do we have enough cash flow to say no and to pay all the bills without that 200? But that's easy. The harder part to calculate for me is how many months will it take me to make those 200 in the
Mm,
right category with the right
mm.
project. And that is so hard to calculate. I have no idea how to do it. So I had always a kind of a range. Okay, I think it takes me 6 to 8 months. But obviously that's BS, right? You're making something up. And we never had a 6 months completely accurate sales estimation um, that I could rely on. So that was the hard part for me when I say no to something, to calculate um, what's the
Opportunity
risk,
costs.
what's the real
Yeah.
risk, what's the opportunity cost, what's the
Yeah.
time. Um, and I'm glad that I still did it. But then, of course, you have for a few months, I was panicking. Like we are now down in dollars. I'm glad that I still did it every time, but that was the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because it's like if you think about the time money equation, right? And then you look at like the opportunity cost of not doing a project when you have one that comes across your desk. What's interesting to me is the thing that helped me to kind of like move through that myself. Cause I mean, obviously that's a big thing. It's like, hey, here's an opportunity. We can make $200,000 more than we have. What is it going to look like to do that? And then you start weighing pros and cons and you do your list and all this stuff. One of the things that became a little bit easier for me was, does this project lead to where I'm planting my flag on the top of the hill? Yes or no? Right. And if it veers away from like something that I don't think is in direction with that flag, I'm the guy that's probably apt to say no to that. However, the only caveat on where I would not do that and actually like go down the path is if I had multiple clients saying they wanted the same thing and letting the market direct me in that direction, because then that might shift where my flag is planted at the top of the hill. So a lot of things to think about as we kind of go through that, but definitely you brought up a lot of good thought. And when in my journey as I became a CEO, the hardest mindset shift for me was going from doing to delegating, because I was one of those people that my parents taught me, like, do it all yourself, inspect what you expect, make sure that it's done correctly. And I had that kind of like mantra built into me. And when I started getting into the CEO role, what I learned very quickly is it needs to be more of a we versus me strategy. That's in fact one of our values of our companies, is we versus me. And as my partner says it best, he says, if you want to go fast, go by yourself. You can get to seven figures pretty fast by yourself, but you're a founder, you're not a CEO at that point. But if you want to go far, you got to go together. And so that phrase really hit me hard when it's like a we versus me thing. And it's like you can get a lot more done. 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 in a business world. 1 plus 1 equals 11, because nobody in a company, like if you had one person trying to do all the things, we have 17 on our squad right now. If one person tried to do all the work of 17 people, it's an instant burnout fail. But if you have 17 people that have specialties in different things, and then we're all working cohesively as like the flying V of ducks, you get way more accomplished. And I like, it really took me a while to like soak that piece in, but it was more so like I didn't want to delegate stuff that I thought was hyper valuable. And the hardest thing for me to ever delegate was like the CFO finance role, simply because like that's your money, right? That's your lifeblood. And so that kind of brings me to the next thing is, Simon, you mentioned income streams as a
Mhm.
CEO. What are your thoughts on income streams?
This is something that I'm learning recently. I'm 45, and the older I get, the more I realize that cash flow is king. Sounds so simple, and it is. But I was looking at revenues for the first 10 years of my career. In my 20s, revenues. In my 30s, I was looking at profits, like optimizing. Now in my 40s, I look more to cash flows. So, are we really utilizing all our resources, our knowledge, our tools, our templates, our wisdom, our courses, our services? Are we really utilizing them to create cash flow? What I mean by that is if I'm 5 weeks on a summer vacation, which I do every year, how many revenue streams are happening during those 5 weeks? And it was zero in my 20s. It was almost zero in my 30s. But now in that I'm 45, there are a few that are working even when I am on vacation. And I want to focus on those more. And that's why in the Sprint Club, we have this mantra. We want to have 5 to 7 income streams going on at all time. It became so clear to me. And actually, it was a Sprint Club member, Anthony. He was 15 years at Goldman Sachs, and he was in wealth management. And one of the first things that he said when he joined the 200K Club was, he said, this is what all millionaires do. They have 5 to 7 income stream. And it was totally clear to me immediately that that's the smartest thing to do. Right. And so even now when I meet friends and they tell me that they have real estate, I say, okay, and is it generating cash flow for you? It's the first question that I have to them. Because, even in we learn from our parents probably, or we do just what we saw everybody doing. Yeah, buy your apartment, buy your house. It's quite the opposite of what I would do now. Look at cash flows. And probably real estate is not immediately generating passive cash flow. So it's probably not the best idea. And if you look at real estate, how can it generate cash flow quickly and without taking any time of yours? Like less than 10 minutes per month.
I love that thought. I just want to jump in there because I think like there's this hidden pressure. So I want to talk about the hidden pressure because I think what you just said is so vital for a lot of people to hear because everybody that I've ever known, the norm, go to school, get an education, get a degree, get a job, buy a house. Like that's always the next thing. That's what it is. And so to buck the trend and go against what people are saying is you need to have some mental fortitude, and that's some pressure. I do not own any property anymore. I got rid of it. I had
Congrats.
it one. Yeah, thanks. I don't because yeah, let's go. And but now I have what's interesting is I sold all of our properties and now I live in this really fancy luxury apartment on the top floor with a view of the mountains in Boulder. Like it's pretty amazing. And that cash flow, the amount of cash flow is going out for that rent is less than what I was paying for all of my real estate stuff.
Of course.
And so to me, that's a win, right? And so now it's like what Simon says, I think is totally true. But in terms of like mental fortitude to buck the trend, talk about that for a minute. Like, how do you teach someone to do that, or how do you empower them?
So with real estate, I was lucky because a friend of mine who's really smart, he said, Seven, check the actual costs of real estate. So I put on a spreadsheet and I saw that the actual cost, the hidden costs are much higher, like you did. And then when you see that in front of you, you go, okay, I can buck the trend. The second thing, and this is what we practice in the Sprint Club, I can even show a page here. In the Sprint Club, we have these 13 ways of creating cash flow out of your existing knowledge. So without changing anything, right? You know stuff. And with that, you can create those 13 income streams. And we have them plug and play ready in there as a template. And some of them are so immediate and people don't think about it. So when you have services already, one-on-one services that you can put on top of that groups and cohorts, that's another cash flow like you are doing a weekly group coaching, right? It already decouples your time from your income. So it's the first step. And you can have 5 groups and then maybe stop doing one-on-one. You are already doing the same thing, but much more scalable and much more
Yeah.
decoupled from your time. On top of that, you can add subscriptions like the software people do. You can have licensing, royalties, affiliate commissions, paid newsletter, options income. That's my favorite right now. Capital gains, rent, but only if it's totally passive. So other people manage and rent, and you just get the money every month, and
Mhm.
that's it. Sponsors. So like this podcast could be sponsored by somebody. Like the coconut water that I'm drinking. Hey, coconut water producers, if you're looking at this, I want you as a sponsor. Or products. Like you can say, hey, buy my planner. You can buy this somewhere, right? And so now you have a physical product on top of services. So those are ways to create cash flow that are immediate, that are, I think, even fun to work with. And so the older I get, the more I look at cash flow rather than revenue or profits.
Yeah, I love that a lot. And by the way, for anybody just watching that slide, Simon's new book goes into detail about each and every one of those strategies and how you can deploy it in your business with actual examples and takeaways and notes that you can write. And again, just a great book. Just to reiterate that, I think. When does it come out? Do you know when you're gonna launch it?
November.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, guys, be looking for that. We'll make some more announcements as we get a little bit closer. That's in about a month or so. But yeah, that's going to be I would bet a bestseller, and not only a bestseller on Amazon, but probably like a New York Times bestseller because it's written well. So great job, dude. Okay, next question we have is what daily habits or systems have helped you to stay focused on your vision instead of getting lost in operations?
Oh, I can share something from this month. So I have this circle thing in front of me. It's my 4 daily habits. And so I have it in front of me. I define the 4 daily habits per month. This is September because I was just reviewing September. 4 habits. And then I have to check off if I'm actually doing them and to see when I'm on a streak and when I'm losing the streak.
So the streak means like that whole circle would be full, right?
Exactly.
With little tick marks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So first habit is book. Write a few words every day. And you can see that there was no streak. I avoided it for over a week, beginning of September. And I
I
hated
love
it.
the accountability. I love the accountability because you look at that in the blank space and you're like, what was I doing? Like, write 5 words. It's not that hard. Yeah, that's so
Exactly.
great, dude. I love that.
And then it was screaming at me because of this. And so I started doing something, but then nothing on the weekend, then doing something again. And end of September, this is when I picked up the streak because this was when I had this idea, hey, let's invite other people to it. And 8 beta readers came in, and this gave me energy again because I'm a collaborative person when it comes to writing. I don't want to write alone, not knowing if it's helpful. I want to feel and get the feedback if this works, if this is helpful, if this is relevant. And if I don't get it, I get out of habit. And if I get it, I'm on it. So,
Yeah, I think that's interesting because I think the other thing that I think creates the gap, like on your calendar planner like that, is non-clarity, right? And so I think like motivators are interesting to talk about from just like a human psyche. I mean, you have a master's degree in that or whatever, but like what are the motivators, right? And so I always think about like if I don't have a clear plan on how to execute. So example, my book that I just wrote and launched, it took me 2 years to get that book published, and there's probably 15 years of knowledge in it, right? Why did it take me 2 years? Because I didn't have a plan on how I was going to execute the marketing. That stopped me in my tracks from writing anything. And so again, I think like having when I purchased one of my coaches, Alex Sharfin, it was the most expensive or one of the most expensive masterminds that I'd ever been a part of. Is 65,000 a year, and the first thing that he came and he said to me is like, why are you taking this course? And it was about putting in a cadence, like an entrepreneurial operating system into our business. And I said, look, like I need permission and clarity as a CEO. Those are the two things I was seeking that I didn't have. Permission for me to go be in my power zone because I was a CEO. I didn't have the EOS operating system in our business, and I was responsible for operations, finances, employees, all the other things. But my superpower, marketing, sales, and staying on the front end of the business to generate income, like that's where I've always been strong. And so I didn't have permission until I went and I installed his system. And so I think like having clarity and permission to go do those things is something that a CEO really needs. And so again, I think this comes back to Simon teaches systems. We teach systems. We teach frameworks, and so does Simon. And if you don't have the systems and the frameworks in your business, you're not a CEO. You're a founder wearing every hat there is. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Love this.
Okay, next question. What was a mistake early in your CEO journey that turned into one of your best lessons that you learned? Ooh.
I'm learning a lesson right now. So one of these 13 things is options income. And so my biggest mistake was for 45 full years to think that options is gambling. And so it was on a blacklist for me. I don't do that. I'm not a speculator. I don't speculate. And I'm still not a speculator and I don't speculate. But I learned that there is a way of being the casino and not the gambler. And that was my mistake. I always thought, okay, options, you're the gambler. I didn't think further, one step further. Wait a moment, if there is a gambler, there is also a casino. Can I be the casino? Because the casino is the best strategic position ever. Ever. You control the bottleneck, you control the flow. And the gamblers, they come in, they lose money, and they go again. And then they come 6 months later with fresh money because they're addicted. They will come back forever.
Yeah.
But they come, they lose, and they go. That's the pattern. And there will always be gamblers. So can you beat a casino? With that question, I literally went to YouTube and to AI with this question: how can I beat a casino? And pretty quickly, I think it was a few weeks, where it hit me. And yeah, you can. You sell options instead of buying them. And then I started experimenting in January. And as always, I do this in public. And so we did it in public, just selling cash secure puts. And I learned so much for my role as CEO. Because I learned, well, first of all, to think on my own feet, right? To think through my assumptions. Okay, this is my assumption, but what if it's completely different? What if I can beat a casino? So that question alone was a changer. And then every day, 10 minutes, like right now, market's open. I cannot wait. After this, I will go and check the market and check my positions, and I will close some and then I will open some. And now people might go, but Simon, come on, why don't you put on an algo, right? This is done by computers nowadays. You don't do that manually. What are you, old school? And I would answer, no, I want to do this manually because it makes me a better decision maker, a better capital allocator. I'm learning so much about probabilities. What are the odds? Are the odds 80% in my favor or 75% in my favor? If they are below 70% in my favor, I don't do that. Because I'm learning that you can create the conditions to be 75%, 76%, 80%, 85% right. And that has, of course, lower yields. Then if you go for 50% chance of being right, then you can make much higher yields. But those people that create the conditions for 50%, only 16% of them beat the market. And the other 16% on the other side of the curve, they just go belly up. They lose everything because they're taking on too much risk. So I'm learning about quickly calculating the odds So what are the odds of a going to zero? And what are the odds of it being green? And I get quicker at doing that. So that's one thing. I'm getting better at taking decisions. The second thing is sometimes you take decisions and they're wrong. So I'm getting better at quicker reviewing, journaling, reviewing, being true to myself and saying, this was a wrong decision. And now, when you see that you're on a wrong decision, how quickly can I de emotionalize it and just mechanically, okay, take the loss, move on? So that's the second thing that I'm learning. It's emotional management, even if something happened yesterday. So let's say yesterday um, there were some uh, taco things going on that somebody said, we're gonna tariff Scandinavia, and you have a trade on in Scandinavia right now. So that happened yesterday. Now today you go to trade again. Can you get rid of that fear because it was yesterday? Can you go back to zero, to being in the moment, even if you had a trauma yesterday? And that happens all the time.
Totally.
You get traumatized in the market, but how quickly can you reset and be in the now? This is what all meditators, every spiritual person tries to achieve, right? I'm practicing that with option selling.
It's so interesting you mentioned that because like I have like a lot to say about the stuff you just talked about. So the first thing I'll just hit on is the last point that you made, right? They have this statistic in ball golf. Have you ever played regular golf where you hit the ball in the hole?
Never.
Okay, so you know, but you understand the concept, right? You hit the ball off the tee and then you get it in the hole. So if you get a what they call a par, which is like what's designated for that particular hole, if it's a par four and you take 4 shots to get the ball in the hole, then you get a par, right? On the pro tour, if you get a higher than a par score, they have one thing they measure that truly defines how good of a golfer you are. It's one statistic. It's called the bounce back factor. And the bounce back factor is this: when the pro golfer gets more than that par four on that hole, how fast does he bounce back? Does it take him 1 hole, 2 holes, 3 holes to get a under par score? Right. And the best golfers in the world, if they do bad on 1 hole, the next hole they'll go get like one under the four.
Mm.
Right. And that's the bounce back
They
factor.
bounce
So it's the
back
same.
quicker. Yeah.
Yeah. They bounce back more quickly. Right.
And
And so that's what you
the
just said.
amateurs, they start beating themselves up and it gets worse and worse.
Yep. And then they get a 5 and a 6 and a 9 and yeah, that's exactly the thing. So it's like having that short term memory of understanding, like, nope, bad decision. Let's reset and then start fresh again. I love that. I think like bounce back factor in business is what you just described, which I think is totally awesome, especially in investing.
Because it's
The second
normal
thing,
human nature, right? And so as a
yeah,
CEO, you have a bad day. Now, will you create a full bad week for yourself and a full bad week for the whole team? Or
yep,
can you bounce back? That's what I'm learning
exactly.
in trading.
Yeah, yeah. I was lucky to learn that skill early in my sporting career. And I know that's one of those things that has like flooded through the year because I mean, like, if I have a bad day in sales, I'm not going to let it get me in a slump anymore because I know how to slump bust it, right? Like, I know how to bust the slump to get out of it. So,
Yeah.
and it's just starting fresh, following the framework, doing the thing, right? Doing the exercise, the basics, which brings me to my second point. The first thing you mentioned was I do option trading manually, I don't use an algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasons you do it, I think, are the most important things as CEO to remember. So what you said is I do options trading manually so that it helps my mind get sharper to make better decisions, to analyze data quicker, and to not make mistakes.
Yeah.
That is the right reason to do something manually. Most founders, most CEOs that I know, when they come into my world of direct messaging and social media, they say, screw that. I just want a button to do it all. Unfortunately, if you push that button and you don't know how the mechanism works and then something breaks, you don't know how to fix it. And so what I say is the same thing that what Simon said with trading. I say it with direct messages. I still do them manually. Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
am standing here saying I have an AI software, but I still do them manually as well. My software can do manual, semi-automated, or fully autonomous. It can do it all, but I choose manual. And the reason I choose manual is because of what Simon said. When I'm manually messaging someone, I can understand the patterns of how they're writing, what they're thinking. I know how to respond to that. And then, boom, it makes me sharper when I get in a sales conversation. I can remember what they said in the chat. I can remember how they responded and what answer hit the hardest, so that when I'm in that sales conversation, guess what? I already know what to say. My close rate goes up. This is why I still do things manually. Now, I'm not saying do it all manually. No, I don't do that. I let our AI and our systems do kind of the heavy lifting, the, you know, what I call like the very high value, low skill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That should be automated, right? So if you have something that's really high value, but it's super low skill to do, as an example, reaching out to 20 new prospects every single day is a very low skill, but it's an extremely high value thing for any business,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can automate that part. And then once somebody responds to me, that becomes more of a skill level gap where your skill level raises up to the same level of value. And that's where you need a higher thinking person to be able to like start doing that. And that's a great training ground for my sales guys to go through and become pros at doing that thing. So same thing as Simon for trading. I do it in my day-to-day business exactly the same. I choose to do it manually because it makes me a better CEO later. That's kind of the idea, right? So I love that, Simon. The other thing you said, I mean, that kind of goes along with decision making. I mean, like as a CEO, like talk about decision making.
This is probably my favorite topic since now 25 years. Decision making. As a CEO, you have to take decisions about the whole thing and about the parts. It's not the same thing. So, does it optimize like only marketing or only operations or only sales, or does it optimize the whole thing? That's one conundrum to get right. And sometimes you have to be very hard to the parts to optimize the whole thing. And then for the parts is, oh my God, what are you doing? You're taking resources from me. You have to show the whole pictures and you have to be very clear. The larger the organization, the harder this is. If you're a small shop, it doesn't really matter because the parts are always connected to the whole. But if you have like 17 departments in 15 countries and 3 products, now it's pretty complex. The capital allocation, which product gets more resources for sales, which priority when this happens. So those decisions get complex. And the first thing is what's right for the whole thing and what is right for the parts. So when you design incentives, who gets paid how much, you have to think about the whole thing, not about the parts. And you have to align those incentives. For smaller teams, it's the bounce back rate. Okay, this happened and it's a bad week. How do I bounce back quicker? How do I not contaminate the whole team? So what can I do? I have 5 minutes and then we have team meeting. What can I do in 5 minutes to show up at my best at that team meeting and not to drag everybody down, but instead, to hold that intensity myself and to only show up as the best version of myself in front of my team.
What do you do in that 5 minutes, Simon?
Breath work, either breath work
Good call. Yeah.
or I have kettlebells
I was
here.
going to say, I do the same thing. I got a pull up bar in the
Weights.
next room, man. I'll go
Yeah.
whip some pull ups out real quick and do push ups. Like, I don't know, I have a walking treadmill under my desk. I'll just keep walking, whatever. But
High
yeah, I think
intensity.
the
If
blood
it's
flow
5 minutes,
creates high. Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
weights in combination with high intensity. Like you might
Yeah.
do weights, burpees, weights, burpees, weights, burpees, or some combination of weights and high intensity, or breath work. If I have only 5 minutes, if I have an
And the
hour,
other,
I go
here's
for
a,
a run.
yeah, I mean, the longer time you got, but if you only got 5 minutes and you don't have access to exercising, you can do push-ups anywhere, right? But the other thing that I would mention is this is a hack that I learned a long time. I dare you to try this. You've never tried this before, Simon. Um, Put the biggest, cheesiest smile that you can possibly grin ear to ear and hold it for at least 60 seconds. It will change the endorphin flow in your body and it boost your levels of cortisol and all the other stuff. And so when you show up that meeting, you'll be in a great shape. So it's like the smile for 60 seconds thing is powerful. Try it.
Yeah,
Right.
and
So
everybody can do a military style 3 minutes high
yeah,
intensity. Like try doing burpees for 5 minutes
I
in a
hate
row
burpees.
without.
I hate
Yeah,
them.
yeah. Learn to love them. They're
Yeah.
powerful. If it's hard for the back, you can do just a jump, right? Without doing the full, without going so low. But it's something that in 3 minutes can reset you.
Yeah, I love that. So bouncing back, yeah, that's such a cool thing. All right, as we come to the end of the session for today, we have a lot of other topics that we wanted to get through. We'll have to cover those next time, like collabs and books and launches and things. But the one thing I wanted to ask you, Simon, that I think is valuable for everybody here listening is, in your opinion, if you had to choose like something that would make a company great, what does it take to make a great CEO or a great company? One thing.
In the end, it's culture. But what is
Culture.
culture and how do you shape culture? You can only shape culture via structure. So there is no button that says change a culture here. How do you change a culture? You can only
Yeah,
change a culture via structure. What is a structure? For example, daily habits written down. If everybody does that, you are installing a culture where everybody is, focused, grounded, and accountable to themselves. That's a
yeah, I love
culture
that.
that's different from another culture where people say they're gonna do something and then they don't do it.
I love that. If you ask me, and I think that's like the long term strategic right answer is what you said. Absolutely. Like if you, what makes a great company is a great company culture, and so nurturing and building that is absolutely one of the best things. I also think what makes an incredible CEO or even company for that matter is when they've made a grave mistake or an error with a customer, how do they respond to that? And judging how they respond is what I believe makes a great CEO or a great company. Because everybody can say, oh, I'm the king of the world, and they can pound their chest and they can do these amazing things, and everybody's great and everyone's at the top of the mountains. But how do you act when you get in the mud? How do you act when your customer rips your face off because you did something completely wrong and ruined something in their business? How do you act then is what I believe defines moral fiber and character and makes a great company. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Great
Thoughts?
point.
Final thoughts for today. The CEO Cafe.
When you say character, I have to think about being a parent. So I have three kids, and I think frequently, what can I do to make them ready for what's coming, for their 20 years, 50 years that they have in front of them, 80 years. And the answer that comes every time is character. And learning to deal with adversity, um, with standing on your own feet and moving forward slowly. That's what they need to learn. So if I have too many millions to pass to them via options, I will not do that. I will think about what's the minimum that they need to be grounded and present and humble and entrepreneurial rather than spoiled. The last thing I want is spoiled. I My contribution can be to create a strong character, right? So that's why I'm happy that they're picking things like rowing and tennis, etc., where you actually build character. Because most of the time it's just frustrating. It's either cold or you're shooting in the wrong direction. It goes out instead of in, or you're hitting the
Yeah.
net. So it's you can learn to deal with frustrations. I think learning to
Mm.
deal with frustrations. We have a tennis coach, and he said something genius. He said, you know that Roger Federer hits only, I forgot the exact number, but it was something like only 60% of the times he hits it right. And so 40% is wrong. And if that's Federer, can you imagine normal person? Like they hit like 10%?
Yeah.
Uh,
Not even, probably five, right? Not
Probably, right? And
you get
so
that one serve during the game is perfect, and the rest of it is for sure.
so it's really dealing with frustration in small doses, but in daily doses that is character building. And I think that's important for a CEO, right? So if you have kids, start already there. And if you're a CEO like Sean and me, this is where it's worth working on and investing time and attention into building your character. How you deal with refund requests, how you deal with somebody leaving your team when you're stuck in the mud, as you say.
Yeah, that's it. Well, again, a lot of takeaways today. I think the big one that we can all remember is work on getting cash flow instead of revenue stream. I think that's a big lesson. Some of the other things that I took away is choosing to do something manually versus pressing the magic button to do it for you. Why would you do that, right? I think that's always another good thing, right? And so those are my two biggest takeaways from today. And that's going to wrap up the show for this afternoon. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the week. We're actually going to miss next week, so we'll catch you on the following. But with that said, continue to elevate, lift your game to the next level. Use the tips and the tactics and the strategies that we shared in this podcast for your business to grow. Remember, this is a conversation. It's not a one-way street. We want to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Smash the like button. Share this out to another founder or CEO that might need this. That's what we're here to do. With that said, thanks for being here, Simon. I love you. I miss you. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue in 90 days.
What if your business would run well even when you are on vacation? Discover how 1,600 business owners have regained their freedom using the Strategy Sprints blueprints. How they enjoy living their dream and watching their business scale. Get the exact checklists they use to go from stressed to fulfilled using the Strategy Sprints method. Order your copy of Strategy Sprints 12 Ways to Accelerate Growth for an Agile Business on Amazon today. And if you love it, leave us a review. For more information, head over to strategysprints.com.